Welcome to Mrs. Vissone's class. Today we are going to be learning how to solve percentage problems using proportions. I brought a special guest today.
Guys, I missed you. It's nice to see you. I hope you're all doing well. Remember, I got my spy keeping an eye on you. Well, good luck with proportions. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Misty. Let's get started.
Okay, now it's time to get serious. Let's go ahead and get started learning how to solve percentage problems using proportions. You've already learned how to use proportional relationships to solve ratio problems. And now you will learn how to apply this to specific percentage problems. For this lesson, you are going to need a sharpened pencil with an eraser, a calculator, and your guided notes sheet. For your guided notes sheet, there have been spaces provided for you to follow along, fill in the spaces as you're prompted in the video. There are also spaces available for you to go ahead and solve each problem that we go through here on your piece of paper on the guided notes. And go ahead, and once that's completed, let me know, and you can earn 2 chips for completing your guided notes sheet properly. If you need to, in order to get your supplies ready, if you're missing any of these things, please pause the video and get everything that you need and come back and resume the video. Let's go ahead and review proportions in general. Now, a proportion indicates that 2 ratios or fractions, as you see in the example, are equal. And you can see these indicated by the dots there. 1/3 is equal to 2/6. Let's go ahead and review how we solved these in the last unit that you just finished. So here you have 250 over 5 equals x over 10. And we learned how to use the butterfly strategy to make sure that we are multiplying the correct numbers. So here you have 5x, or your coefficient is 5, or the number that is being multiplied by x is 5. And then 250 times 10. Okay, so there we have 5x. And then 250 times 10 is 2,500 or 2,500. X doesn't like to be with any other numbers, so we need to get x by himself. Go ahead and draw your fraction bar there and divide x by 5. What you do to the left side, you have to do to the right side. So we are going to go ahead and divide 2,500 by 5 as well. The 5 cancels out the 5, or 5 over 5 is 1. So we don't write 1x because we are 7th grade mathematicians. So we know that x is equal to 500. Make sure that you've written this down on the example section of your guided notes worksheet. If you need to, pause the video so that you can get that completed. So, how do you solve or use proportions to solve percentage problems? So you can see that this is a proportion, somewhat looking like what you're used to. You've got your fraction bars here that you're used to. And here you have the percentage over 100, and then you have a part whole. This is a really, really easy way to solve percentage problems. Your percent always goes on the top, on the left side. The number 100 will always go on the bottom, on the left side. So by part and whole, so whole refers to the entirety of the number, or the original number that you started with, and the part is the number that you'll have after you complete the percentage. So finding the specific amount, percentage amount in that whole number, that will be your part. And another easy way to think of this with the problems that we're working with today is by thinking about the part as the is portion of your word problem and the whole as being the of portion of your word problem. So go ahead and make sure that you write on your guided notes worksheet is next to part and of next to whole. You'll be using that as we go through these example problems. An easy way that I remember is and of in the part whole comparison here is that alphabetically an I comes before O. So is goes on the top because I comes before O, and of goes on the bottom because O comes after I. So that's kind of a little device that I use to remember which part is and of, and I think that that might be helpful for you as well. So make sure that you have that noted on your guided notes worksheet. So there are 3 different types of percentage problems. Note that the 3 is underlined, so you'll need to go ahead and populate your guided notes worksheet with the word 3. So there are 3 types of percentage problems that we are going to be solving today and that you will be required to solve on your unit test at the end of this unit. First, 50% of 80 is what number? So you're going to have to solve that for what number. So you'll be provided with a percentage, and the 80 would be the whole or the of portion of the proportion. And then you may be required to solve what percent of 12 is 3. So in that example, you are finding out the actual percentage, which is on the top left portion of the proportion. And then you will be required to solve 10% of what number is 8. So you'll be given the percentage, and then you'll be given the is, or the part, and you'll be required to find out the of, or the whole part of the proportion. So those are the 3 types that you're going to need to solve. And there are no other different types of percentage problems. They're either one of these 3. So let's go ahead and start by solving one of the first type of problems. We're going to go ahead and use the cube strategy. I would highly recommend that you use the cube strategy for all the word problems that you complete. I know you went through this with Miss D last semester, or before Christmas break, and I know I went through this with you as well. So I definitely encourage you to use this strategy. You've been given a copy of this on your guided notes as well. So we are going to first circle the key numbers. So we've got here 15%. That's very important. We've got 40. Okay, and we're going to underline the question, and that is what number? And we're going to box in our it says here action words, but any words that are important, we're going to go ahead and box in. And that is definitely, specifically in these proportion problems, the of and the is. So this is what I like to do first. Go ahead and make your fraction bars and your equal sign. That is the first thing that you will do. Okay, so then in this example, we've got 15% and 40, but the first thing after the fraction bars and the equal sign, we are going to put 100. 100 always goes here. So this is what you should have in any problem. You're going to have 100 on the bottom. And now we know that we have 15%. We know 15% goes on the top from our previous example. So we're going to go ahead and put 15%. And we know of, let's go ahead and write our is and of. So I is before O, is and of. So 15% of, so these are together. So 15% of 40 is what number? So what number is going to be our variable, which I will make X because we're all comfortable with that. So we're going to go ahead and solve this. I'm going to use my butterfly method here. And I know that we all know how to solve our proportions. You'll multiply 15 times 40, right, equals 100x. So go ahead and take a moment, pause the video, and solve this proportion here. Give you just a minute. And after you solve that, you should get x equals 6. If you did not get x equals 6, go ahead and raise your hand and I will come and help you. But go ahead and solve that. Let's go on to another one. So we have 25% of 60 is one number. We have the same thing. We're going to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and circle our numbers. We're going to underline the question, and we're going to box in our important words here, which is definitely going to be these two here. Okay, so let's make our fraction bars. Step 1 in the equality sign, and then we're going to put 100 here because 100 always goes here, right? Okay, so 25%, we know our percentage goes here on the top, so we're going to say 25. I'm going to write is and of because that helps me to remember. And then you say 25% of 60 is what number? We know that what number means that it's our variable. Go ahead and solve this. In this example, you should have gotten x equals 15. Okay, and we got that by doing the butterfly strategy here. And we had 25 multiplied by 60 is equal to 100x, or 100x equals 25 multiplied by 60. Then you would divide both of those sides, the left and right, by 100, and you should have gotten x equals 15. Let's move on to the next example. So this is different. We've got a different kind of problem. This is the second type of problem that we are going to have. So we know that we have 50 and we have 5. And our question is what percent? And we're going to box in our of and our is because that helps us. I know that I'm going to make my fraction bars and my equal sign, and then I'm going to put 100 on the bottom left because I know that that always goes there. So now we have what percent? Well, we don't know what the percent is, so that is actually going to be our variable. And we know here that we have is and of. So there we've got of 50 and is 5. So you should go ahead and solve this problem. You can pause it if you want to. Go ahead and solve it, and you should have gotten x equals 10. And we got that by taking 50x is equal to 100 multiplied by 5. We divided both sides by 50 to get x by itself, and then x was ultimately 10. So we know that that's actually 10%. So 10% of 50 is 5. Let's go ahead and try another one. Okay, so let's circle our numbers because we're using the cube strategy. 80 and 20 Those are our numbers that we're looking at. The question is what percent, and we're going to box in our important words, which is and of. And the first thing I'm going to do is make my fraction bars and my equal sign and put 100 on the bottom left-hand side, just like we did before for the other problems. And I'm going to actually, write is and of here. I know I comes before O, so I is going to come first. And we have what percent, so we know that that's our variable. So we know X is going to be on the top. And I do want to note, and I know that I've covered this before, that it could be any variable. The variable can be A, B, C, anything. But X is the most commonly used in introductory algebra. So I like to use X a lot. But it doesn't have to be X. If you like another letter, if your name starts with a B and you want to use B, that's fine too. Okay, so you know you have of 80, so we're going to put 80 here, and is 20. So we know that we are going to have a coefficient 80x equals 20 times 100. We'll solve that, divide both sides by 80. And if you need to pause the video to solve this, please go ahead and do so. And for X, you should have got X equals 26. So we know that that's 26%. So 26% of 80 is 20. Okay, so here we have the last type of problem that we're going to be working with today. And we have 10% of what number is 5? So I'm going to circle my numbers. I have 10% and I have 5. I'm going to underline what number. So that's going to be our variable there. And then, of course, boxing in the words of and is, because those are very, very important in solving these proportional relationships or solving percentage problems using proportions. So there you have your fraction bars and your equal sign, and you're going to put your 100 there. We know that we have 10%, so I have 10% there. And you don't have to put the percentage side when you're solving this, but I did just to show you that that's where I got that number. So 10% of what number? So we don't know where we put, or we don't know what that variable is, and that we put here because that's in our of, is 5. So you know that you have 10x equals 100 times 5. You'll multiply those two numbers, divide by 10 because x needs to be by itself, and then you should get, and go ahead and pause the video now if you need a moment to go ahead and solve that problem. X equals 50 is the number that you should have gotten for your answer. Now, do note that you are going to get chips for completing the guided notes worksheet and making sure that you show your work in all of the examples given here. So make sure that all of your work is written down. Okay, and our last example of that, let's go ahead and use our cube strategy. Once you use cubes for all of the problems that you're solving, it becomes really second nature, and you can just do that right away. And as the problems get more difficult, as you get into Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and in high school and everything, it will be extremely handy when there is a lot of information in your word problem. So we circled our numbers there. We're going to underline our question, so that's our variable there. And let's box in the important words, which of course The words are of and is. Okay, fraction bar, oops. We're making our fraction bars and our equal sign. And we know that we need 100 there. We know that we have 6% of what number, so we know that our variable goes there. And that finally our is 120. And I do want to go ahead and make sure that I write is and of for you there. If you'd like to, if it helps, when you're solving these problems, when you immediately write your fraction bar and your 100, you can go ahead and actually write is and of before you even start putting your numbers in, if that's something that you find that helps you. And that's fine if on the test you do that. I love that you would be showing your work and your thought process there. So whatever you need to do, go ahead and take a moment to solve this. You know that you're going to have 6x equals 120 multiplied by 100, and you divide that by the coefficient 6, and you would divide whatever the 120 times 100, divide by 6 as well. Pause the video if you need a moment to solve this. And you should have the answer of 2,000. So 6% of 2,000 is 120. And what you can do, and of course in the cube strategy, we always check our work. So after you do this, I'm going to do this right here, you can go ahead and write 6 over 100 equals 120. And then you would have 2,000. These should be equal. So you can go ahead and solve it with the number already there, and they should be equal. So now we are going to have a little bit of fun, actually a lot of fun, I think. You are going to complete a real-world example. So Gavin wants to match LeBron's best 58% shooting average from the regular season last year. We want to find out, did he reach his goal? So what you need to know is how many shots Gavin attempted and how many shots he made. There is a section on your guided notes worksheet where you can write this information. So go ahead and watch the following video and count how many shots he made, count how many shots he attempted, and we will use that information to solve the problem. So I hope you enjoyed that wonderful video. We're going to use our cube strategy. So we know here you're trying to find out if his percentage was 58. And really, this is the question here. So we're going to set up a proportion. And we know that we are going to put our fraction bars and that 100 is always going to be here. Here we're trying to find out what the percentage is. So that is going to be our variable. And we need to compare Gavin's percentage with LeBron's percentage and see how he did. So you wrote on your guided notes worksheet how many Gavin made and how many he attempted. We know that he attempted 20. So the percentage is going to be of the whole, or the whole. So the big number is 20. He attempted 20 shots. So how many shots did he make? I counted 9 shots that he made. So we know that we have just successfully set up this proportion to find out what Gavin's percentage was. So go ahead and you will say 20x equals 9 times 100, which we can tell by looking at it that's 900. And then we divide both sides by 20 so that we can get rid of that because that turns into 1x, and we are 7th grade mathematicians and we don't need to write 1x. So we should have x equals 45%. So Gavin's shooting average is 45%. Did he reach his goal? Did he match LeBron's best 58% shooting average from the regular season last year? No, he didn't, but he's really close. So he needs to practice just a little bit more and he can reach that percentage. So we are ready to go ahead and get started practicing. I will give you the directions. Go ahead and raise your hand and show me your guided notes so I can give you your chips. And let's get started with some additional practice. Good job, guys.